You talked about getting in the game, not being left out of the game. And right now we've been pretty much, the reason why APEC's so consistently successful is because they're consistently in the game.
That's right.
The money. Every time they're there. Their people are there, the money's there every single time. And many times there's no opposition. There's no one there to argue against it. So they win by default. Now when we say get in the game, this system that we have is pretty much predominantly a two-party system.
Yes.
Okay? So you got to play in that system. Like a lot of our people, we kind of get.
No, you don't have to play.
Well, you don't have to be in one of the parties, but you got to get in that system.
You got to get in the system.
Right? And a lot of people, what we run into as activists, is when we try to get people involved in American politics, they don't even want to vote. They're so disgusted. In other words, especially people that are in the know. They become in the know, and they become cynical, and they drop out of the system the whole way. They don't want to vote. They don't want to know about candidates. They don't want to go to anything. You know, and unless we put our candidates' feet to the fire, we're not going to get them to come our way.
You got to draft candidates.
So tell them about what it means to get in the system.
Well, you got to draft candidates. You have to find people whom you can trust. People that you know very well. People that you know, people who will not easily sell you out. That's what you got to find. And I know that they exist. Every community has got those people. But they rarely have enough money to be considered a contender. And money is the game. In the United States, money is the game. So, and knowledge of the rules. So that, and of course, you know, the rules are applied inconsistently. Thank you. But, for example, you know that even under campaign finance reform, the campaign finance reform is not going to impede the way the pro-Israel lobby does business. So then it would behoove those who want to get in the game to study what they do. At least understand the rules and then organize appropriately. What I have asked for is because sometimes I feel like picking up myself. I really want to drop out and live a life. Because I guarantee you that the life I have is no life. It's almost not worth living, honestly. Because, well, it's like I don't see, I'm wedded to a conviction, but I'd like to see some progress. I'm tired of people not understanding or getting tricked and getting fooled. And it would be so much easier for me to actually finish my PhD and go in and have a life.
So it's almost thankless?
Yeah, it's thankless. You know,
I'll teach us.
Okay, one more here and then we're going to call it.
We'll get
Go
on
ahead.
this vote together, okay? You, me, and David.
okay.
I know.
Question here. Congresswoman McKinney, as a woman, as an African American, obviously you come from two groups historically that have been so oppressed in this country. And quite frankly, I would sometimes vote for an African American or a woman because I believe, look, given where you came from, you've got to be more sensitive. You've got to be more honest. You've got to be more willing to do the right thing, especially it's the first time that kind of a candidate's in there. But what you've told us tonight is you can't depend on that. Because human nature is what it is. I mean, we shouldn't oppress anybody because it's just wrong intrinsically. And practically speaking, why would we want to oppress women and African Americans? Because all the potential of the society, inventions, good leadership, whatever it is, we're losing that. But essentially, not to be too racist, even in a positive way, or sexist, women and blacks are still just human beings, and as you said, they get bought off. They get tired, they become part of the system. So you can't really even depend upon the history or the background, to be that special X factor, to come and do the right thing. How is it that you, personally, get it and can see it and have been able to do the courageous things you've done that we appreciate from you and love you for? Can you tell me that? And then comment a little bit on your experience on that boat trying to get the job.
Everything that I am, I owe to my father. Because my father showed me strength, courage, conviction, sacrifice. We lived next to, my father was one of the first black police officers in Atlanta. Suffered all of the indignities that black police officers of the day had to endure. And instead of enduring them, he protested. But all of the other blacks, there were only 11 of them. And the others were too afraid to protest, so he would protest by himself. He would go do his shift, and in his uniform, he would still protest. Sometimes he would take me, and I would sit right here on his shoulder. But my father had to watch as those cowardly individuals rose the ranks. My father started out as a patrolman. 20 years later, he ended as a patrolman. He never got a promotion, but he was responsible for the dignity with which they were able to serve. He was responsible for the bringing in of a black police chief and ultimately the public safety commissioner. He was responsible for all of the change, and then he got elected to the Georgia legislature, and the first thing he did was file a lawsuit against the state of Georgia for discrimination. So my father was vilified in the press. Everything you can imagine that has happened to me, it happened to him. And I watched it. And they tried to buy him off. And then he would have a vision. He would see things. He would see down the road. And then other people would benefit from his vision. So I've seen that. But I can tell you, nobody wants to be like me. Nobody. Not one of the 535 members of Congress wants to be like me. They've got a verb now. They call it being McKinney.
Wow.
They don't want to be like me. And that's why people compromise. Now, what was your second question?
And from that experience, how do you get on that boat?
Well, yeah, I got on two of them. The first one was
Knowing you could die.
that's right. When the gentleman told me, the physician, the surgeon, said, prepare yourselves mentally to die. Well, at the time, I didn't know. Before I got on the boat, I didn't realize I was, I was in danger. I didn't think that I was going to end up getting rammed, stranded in the Mediterranean, boat totally disabled, and I don't know how to swim. I didn't even have my darn life jacket on right. The doctor had to, he took the life jacket off and put it on me right. And that was, I went through it in detail at the other event, but that was really a moment when I understood the value of life and understood the value of how one lives one's life. And if you are dominated by fear, you'll do nothing. You'll be nothing if you let fear determine what you do. So my heroes rose above their fears, not that, that they weren't afraid. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. knew that the United States government wanted him dead. That's why he said on April the 3rd, I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He knew Malcolm X knew. And Malcolm X got a call, according to GCAAA, saying today is the day. And Malcolm X showed up at the Audubon Ballroom. So who was I to be afraid? In my heroes, I have to live up to my heroes. So I wasn't, the fear that I had of drowning, because I know that, dissipated.
We have one more question in the back, Genevieve. Stand up, make it loud and clear so we can hear it. That's going to be the last one.
Thank you. Congresswoman McKinney, I'm reading Imperial Reckonings by Harvard University Black Studies Professor Carolyn Elkins, who poignantly laid out the imperialist strategy employed to successfully implement British occupation of Kenya and the atrocities conferred against the Kikuyu tribe. And I don't think we're very far from that point here in this country because of the financial situation and what have you, which includes the subjugation, land confiscation, containment, criminalization, and political marginalization of those people. How specifically, and you can be brief if possible in the interest of time, how specifically do we utilize our political power to circumvent the reinstitution of imperialist control, that level of imperialist control being implemented here in the United States during this political cycle?
You mean during this political cycle, like in 2012?
Political cycle.
During 2012?
Yes. As we hear that, what can we do? What steps can we take? Because I don't think we're far from that level of imperialism here in this country. I really don't.
Well, that's why I get depressed. Because what I said, the whole point of my remarks is that we ain't playing the game. So if you're talking about getting in the game for 2012, you got a long way to go, a short time to get there. The election season has already started. We don't have the organization, we don't have the mobilization, we don't even have the education. And we need to have a peace room. We need someone to finance a peace room so that we can look at our assets all over the country. Look at the new districts that are being created. Find candidates, run those candidates, support those candidates, and help them to win. But we don't even have the idea of the peace room. We don't have the location of the peace room. So we're so far behind that, I would never say, don't have hope and don't have faith. But hope and faith have to have action. And we need the action like yesterday.